right, people, welcome into the Dirty Pocket. We're back with myself and the scout, Mr. Daniel Kelly of FirstRoundMock.com. Go take a look. Welcome back, my friend. We've had a few weeks. Full disclosure to anyone that might see this, be listening, and all that good stuff. We've had some COVID. We had a hurricane. We've had some challenges. So here we are. We're back to talk NFL football. How are you, man?
Hey, doing well. You know, it's always a lot going on, as we talked about off air leading into the show. You know, there's always a lot of stuff happening. There's all these things like COVID, and you know, it's the first time I can cross off hurricane off my bucket list. You know, I was at 9/11. I lived 30 miles away from ground zero when that happened back when I was with the Jets. And, you know, I've gone through a few things, been in a few spots throughout the years. And this was one of them where, you know, thankfully, you know, by the grace of God, the hurricane Ian actually just kind of moved itself. I mean, in Key West, Florida, where I'm at, you have to understand something. You have to look at a map. I mean, we're like this pinhead in the middle of the ocean, just kind of sitting there where you have to really squint to see us. It's got this little dot. It's a 4 by 2 mile island that's actually 3.5 hours south of Miami. We're closer to Cuba down here than we are to a Walmart, to put it in perspective.
Wow.
You know, so we're out in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. And so when this Hurricane Ian was coming towards us, you know, it's one of these things where, you know, I mean, we're about 8-9 feet, I think, above sea level, 4 by 2 mile island, you know, one of those type of things. And so it moved just at the last, you know, kind of moved, and we just got the back end of the hurricane. And, you know, it was wild. It was really wild, kind of listening to some of the wind and everything, but it kind of moved. I mean, our wind chimes didn't even move on our back patio. So we were kind of sheltered, tucked away. We live in an old Navy barracks, like a townhouse that's now, you know, what used to be Navy barracks here. And, you know, it was kind of nuts because, you know, then the thing kind of picked up a full head of steam and headed right towards the west coast of Florida at Sanibel Island and Fort Myers. And that's where my mom is. She has a house on Sanibel Island. And of course, she had to go inland to Fort Myers. And so she was texting me in the middle of the night. You know, the winds are 123 miles an hour. They didn't have power at the hotel for like 5 days. You know, the bridge broke that went into the causeway. She hasn't been back to her house yet. She's up in Minnesota with my brother right now. And she can't even get back there because the bridge to Sanibel Island that links from Fort Myers to Sanibel is actually broken. So nobody can even get back to the island. So she hasn't even seen her house or nothing yet at this point. They're saying it might be like December before she can get back even onto the island. So, yeah, it's pretty wild. So that stuff has happened. You know, you had the COVID there for a couple weeks. You know,
I did.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
Not pleasant. It was not pleasant. Oh, whoa. In a shocking development, MTO has joined the show. After he was wondering what happened to us. Well, we're downloading that now. The Dirty Pocket has indeed been dirty. With hurricanes, I had COVID for several weeks. Just not a lot of fun, but we are back. We got a lot to talk about here.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised to see MTO in the house after those New York Jets are rocking the National Football League after several injuries, quarterback issues. Ooh. Okay. All right. Before we get into football, let's do our weekly tradition of drinks. I'm sporting Sevia root beer.
Nice.
It's great for the six-pack abs. I do not have.
My drink has a aroma that came out of the can when I opened it.
Oh, no.
Okay, here we go. No, it's not the Doritos, the Mountain Dew Doritos flavor. It's not that. You know, they got
the flaming hot check. Something.
This is called Goat Fuel.
Oh, I've seen. This is Jerry Rice's brand.
Yeah, Goat Fuel.
This is Jerry Rice's brand, brand.
Yeah, peach pineapple. Let's take a sip, and it's pretty poetic if you ask me, because of who we might be talking about tonight.
Well, indeed, we're We're moving the Dirty Pocket into 30-minute shows for those that might watch, listen
That's
in.
nice.
MTO has certainly been very loyal. And yeah, we might talk about it. There is a lot of quarterback drama. Before we get into quarterback drama, just real briefly, I do want to absolutely recognize in everyone's team, since MTO is sounding off as well, that the Rams have looked rough in Super Bowl hangover land. The Commanders have looked rougher, as some of the owners today would like to see their owner kicked out of the NFL. We've seen, and man, those Commanders. Ooh, Carson Wentz has a busted thumb now. But needless to say, the New York Jets, led by one Zach Wilson and an absolutely tenacious defense with Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, and company, MTO's got to be feeling pretty good. The Jets and the New York Giants have both put New York back into conversation.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, I won't go as far as to say Zach Wilson has much of anything to do with it, because he clearly doesn't. I mean, he had like 2 interceptions in one game. The first game back, it could have been 4 or 5. I think he passed for like 110 yards last week or something. So, what we're looking at really here in MTO, we'll get into the Commanders there in a second with Sam Howell. But I think, let me just say this really quick, MTO. It's going to depend on Taylor Heinicke, how he plays. I have a sneaking suspicion that Heinicke is going to get Washington back into the playoff hunt. That's just me. I'm going to come out and say something big right off the show.
Okay.
But they've been trying to run Taylor Heinicke out of Washington for about 2-3 years now, and all he does is come back into the fold, and here he is again. So I like seeing him again. I love Heinicke. They're finally going to get the heart of this football team back in the football field. Wentz has been anything but impressive to me. He's kind of smiling on the sidelines when they're losing. Even when they lost to Philadelphia, he had a big smile on his face. I mean, that's not what you want to see at all. That's really strange. But back to the Jets here for a second, Stacey, to your point about the New York Jets. I mean, really and truly, it comes down to a couple guys that I loved pre-draft. We talked about them at length. Of course, we're talking about Breece Hall, the big running back from Iowa State, who I compared pre-draft. If you look at the SI Jets articles and pull them up, I compared to Adrian Peterson. That was my NFL comp on him. He's a banger. He's a guy that can hit the line of scrimmage, hit the hole, accelerate. It takes real effort to bring him down. He's been sensational. I said pre-draft he was going to be the best running back in New York since Curtis Martin, and he has been that. This guy is a superstar in the making for them. And of course, defensively, you look at Ahmad Sauce Gardner. I said in an article May 2nd he was going to be the best cornerback in the NFL, period. Even as a rookie, he hasn't disappointed at all. The guy looks like probably the best corner we maybe have seen in the NFL since even Deion Sanders. This guy's got serious swag, serious confidence. He's running off the field in Green Bay with a block of cheese on his head. This guy's got it. He's got it going on. And of course, there's other factors too at play in New York with the Jets. Quinnen Williams, will get more into him too, probably as time goes on over the next few shows. But he's just a beast inside. I mean, you would have thought, like I wrote in my article on Sunday, for Monday actually, you would have thought you were watching an ice skating rink, like an ice hockey game at a rink outdoors in January in Green Bay instead of a football game in mid-October. The way Quinnen Williams was putting those offensive guards on skates and pushing them right back into Aaron Rodgers' face. So yeah, the Jets are off to a pretty good start. I will say this, I'd be very cautiously optimistic about them right now because they're catching everybody kind of at the right time. Tua's out of Miami, Cleveland doesn't have Watson, Pittsburgh's struggling with their quarterback situation, Denver, obviously with Russell Wilson, he's not been up to par at all this. I mean, they're catching everybody at the right time so far. And thank you, MTO. And Garrett Wilson is somebody I love pre-draft too. And Michael Clemens also is somebody who I wrote a nice article on right after the draft when I went back and looked at him at Texas A&M. He's a beast. Guy reminds me of Dexter Manley. There's some real positive things going on with the New York Football Jets. And my hat's off to Elijah Vera Tucker. I didn't think he could make the switch out to offensive tackle, but he has. They've actually been able to kind of remedy that situation, or at least put a Band-Aid on it that's actually lasted. But you're right, MTO. The Bills are going to be the true litmus test of where this football team's actually at. And, of course, the New York Football Giants, I'd be remiss not to talk about them. Of course, on YouTube 5 months ago, I did say that the New York Giants will be the surprise team in the NFC this year. You know, Stacy, how much I love head coach Brian Daboll. I recommended him to Bruce Allen, the president of the Redskins at the time in 2019, to be the next coach in Washington. Love Daboll. He's a guy that has the Belichick, kind of that pedigree, Nick Saban, that type of thing. You're right, MTO. Evan Neal looks terrible. He was my second player, number 2 on my list of 16 to avoid. And thank you for the props too on Kayvon Thibodeau. Love him. Loved him at Oregon. Of course, that's your neck of the woods, Stacy. The guy's tearing it up recently. So the Giants look really good. Of course, both of these New York teams are getting a big boost from the running game, in that you can't underestimate, kind of the running backs have kind of been moved to the background, like we talked about our pre-draft show. It's just not like the 80s when backs are taking top 10 in the draft anymore. It's more of an afterthought because we live in such a pass-happy league. But when you look at Saquon Barkley and the comeback he's had with the Giants, you look at Breece Hall and what he's done. Of course, Michael Carter, too, has contributed nicely. But you look at what those running games in New York, we have gone back to classic New York, pound on the ground, offensive football. And, it's been impressive, to say the least.
I couldn't agree more. Lots to summarize there. Great to see the New York teams getting competitive.
Great for those NFL markets. That's what they like to see.
They like to see that, as LA is faltering a little bit in their quest to run it back. Okay, we got to talk quarterback drama because, as usual, there's always a ton of it. But my God, have we had some weird storylines this year, not just with the injuries, but just some of the guys even playing. Although I want to start with Russell Wilson, who, wanted his way out of Seattle, ends up in Denver. It's coming out late tonight. He may have a significant hamstring injury. He has looked like a guy that doesn't belong in the NFL this year. I mean, he has not looked good, and I can't figure it out. It's not like Denver doesn't have the pieces. But Russell Wilson last night, first quarter, he started to look real good against that Chargers defense, which has also been really a disappointment, in my opinion, when you look at that roster. But Russell Wilson, what is going on with him? This is strange.
Well, this is something that I almost, and of course, this is, one of these deals where it's, there's no proof of it, but I almost came out with a video during the offseason saying that Russell Wilson was done. I felt looking at him last year in Seattle, they were 7-10 last year, 4th place. If you just look at the raw statistics, if you look at Seattle year by year, okay, since Russell Wilson came out in 2012, after the magic carpet ride in 2013 with the Super Bowl, he never got back to that point again. I wrote an SI article today, if you want to check it out, on the Jets about what's wrong with Russell Wilson. If you look at the last 8 years of the full body of work of Russell Wilson in Seattle, out of 8 years, there was only 3 first-place finishes in those 8 years. And the closest he ever got back to a Super Bowl was in the divisional round of the playoffs, which they lost, I believe, in 2020. So they haven't got anywhere close back to that. I honestly, and I'm going to come out and say this on the Dirty Pocket because we're uncensored, we're live, we're doing our thing, and that's just us, right? And we're going to get this a little bit dirty. But I'll tell you what, okay, for my money, okay, Russell Wilson has not been the same man since he divorced his high school sweetheart. After that first Super Bowl, got away from her, got into this new relationship, the things that he's doing now. It's just, he's become a different person. Okay, this was a guy that was seriously into evangelism back in that 2013 season. You remember that, I'm sure, Stacy.
Yep.
I remember it. Now we're hearing stories where even if teammates of the Broncos want to talk to Russell Wilson, I don't know how true it is or not, but they have to make an appointment with his business manager. I mean, come on. I mean, it's really strange what's happened. In Seattle, being that willing to part with him was eye-opening too. But, you know, if you look at the QBR at ESPN, I did a study over the last 3 years. He's been on a gradual decline the last 3 years. And this year, he went from a QBR, I think, of last year of 60 point something down to 35.6. He has fallen off a cliff in Denver. When I went back, I watched 3 games of Russell Wilson to do the article I did today. I looked at him in the 3 games, and he looked like a candle going out in the wind. He has a very lazy, methodical, worn out look to him in the pocket. He's bringing a very slow tempo and rhythm to the offense. The ball accuracy, the ball placement is off, short, intermediate, and deep at all 3 route levels. He's overthrowing the receivers deep. And the thing that's got to be the most concerning, Denver Broncos fans, turn up the volume for this one. The thing that's got to be most concerning, he looks like a punch-drunk fighter in the ring, okay? What do I mean? Russell Wilson is bracing himself. He's folding like a tent in the pocket for the contact. That's a sign that the guy is almost done at quarterback in NFL history. When you know what they kind of go down in kind of that fetal position, they kind of brace themselves for the contact. That's a very bad sign. This is going to go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history. The Broncos gave up a handful of picks. They gave up some players. They have a $245 million contract extension. This one's going to get people fired. They're talking about Hackett. Maybe not. They did a poll today on Twitter. 85% of fans don't even think he's going to be back next year as the head coach of the team. This is going to get people fired, and this move is going to set the Denver Broncos back many years, folks. This is a very, very, very bad situation.
Yeah, I can't disagree. MTO brings up a great point too about Kyler Murray. We won't have time to get into it, but my God, does that look like one of the worst decisions in NFL? I called it at the time. Kyler Murray, the Russell Wilson thing. I think the best thing could happen to him is that he may have to sit a little bit with this hamstring.
A hamstring, right?
That's
like somebody saying they got a sore neck after a car crash, right? And nobody really knows for sure. I think he's sick of playing. I think the Denver Broncos are sick of him. That's what I think the injury really is here, because he's trying to save face, because this thing is coming off the wheel. It's coming off the rails really fast in Denver, and it's getting really ugly really fast. And I think that's what the injury really is, for my money.
It's really hard to argue that. So, yeah, we don't have near enough time in a 30-minute show to cover Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals.
But that's another one. We talked about that one.
Oh, we talked about it.
That was an idiotic move by the Arizona Cardinals. The guy's asking for franchise money. He had a losing record at the time. He was like 21-23 or something. We talked about on the show. The guy, he's not done anything. All these guys want these record contracts who haven't done anything. You know, it's just, the Arizona, that's another bad situation. I'm sure you're heartbroken about that, Stacey. Being the Rams fan that you are, that we see the stuff, the paraphernalia on your walls and sit around your desk in the background. And I mean, Mark Rippon, I was at the Super Bowl when he won the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 26, January 26, 1992. I was there at the Metrodome when Rip won that one. And, Brett, Brett Rippon, to your point, MTO, Josh Johnson had a nice preseason for them. They'd be a lot better off doing that stuff. They should have never made this move. There was all this hype with the new ownership coming into Denver. They tried to make the big splash. They tried to do Peyton Manning 2.0. They tried to do all this stuff in Denver. It didn't work. and it's not going to work. I tell you what, Russell Wilson looks like he is done.
It's hard to argue that. Let's move on to another guy that doesn't usually come up in these conversations, although you think I enjoy what's going on in Arizona. Or let me tell you how much I'm enjoying this. The guy that everyone calls the GOAT, Tom Brady, is having, goat fuel. He needs some. Send him a case. Okay. Not only does he look cooked to me, and I know people say, oh, we've all said this before. Look, guys, it hasn't been unpacked enough. How does a guy basically allow his marriage and family to take second place to the game of football after you've won 7 Super Bowl? This is a disturbing peek at a guy that people think is the GOAT. And I tell you, what do you make about what's going on in Tampa Bay? Is Tom Brady regretting this decision at this point? I mean, he's yelling at his offensive lineman on Sunday, just yelling at him.
Well, and we're going to get to that too about Garoppolo. And yes, I do think he's going to take the 49ers to the playoffs and yeah, he's going to do some things out there. Trey Bust is a thing of the past. I don't think he would ever start another game for the 49ers.
I don't think we'll ever see the kid again.
No, not now with the 49ers. I think 2 years in the NFL is a lifetime, like Bill Parcells used to say, one of his famous sayings. But back to Tom Brady. It's a sad thing in the NFL. During my 4 years in the league with the Jets, divorces were more common than first downs. It's a
wow.
Absolutely.
That sounds like a bumper sticker.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just to put in perspective, Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick both went through divorces when I was out there.
Yeah, that's sad.
So I mean, I'm talking like lifetime marriages with the kids and everything involved. The kids with. So it is sad, but I mean, this is what the NFL is. It's long hours. Right. I mean, Scott Pioli said to me when he hired me on the phone, after I interviewed out there, he said, "Listen, a couple things I need to talk to you about. Number one, overtime in the NFL is not, optional, it's required. And, I know I was newly married at the time, to one of my, to an ex-wife. But I was married at the time. And, he said, you're young, you're just newly married. You may really want to think about, I'm like, I don't need a time to think, because in the NFL, it's 80, 90, 100 hours a week, from a scouting perspective, from a coaching perspective. And guess what, folks? The guys, Kyler Murray, he's the exception. He's too busy playing video games, and it shows.
It shows.
But a lot of these guys who are, 10, 15, 20-year players, these superstars in the league, they're putting in film work just the same way as the scouts and the coaches are. Peyton Manning, we heard all the stories about him. He was the first one there, the last one to leave. This game is, he would advance scout the other team, and then Peyton Manning would advance scout himself. It's off tape. You're looking for cues. You're looking for any kind of advantage you can find. In the game of football really takes first place in almost everybody's life who's in it. Not just Tom Brady. But I think there's more to that story that meets the eye. There always is. The media kind of controls the narrative, and everyone's trying to, everyone hates Tom Brady because he's so super successful. And, it's one of those type of things. And so they're going to paint the picture to be a certain way. But yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. I mean, I've been through a couple divorces in my life, one involving children. And it is very difficult. They say the game is won or lost from the neck up, and it's affecting. When I saw Tom Brady screaming at his offensive line last week, the first thought I had was he's really taking it out on them. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the thought I had, because that's not something he does. I don't know about you, but that was my thought. But hey, listen, the Bucs are still in first place, right? Tom Brady's still Tom Brady. He's number 1 in the NFL with only 1 interception, as far as he's throwing the least amount of picks in the NFL. Just about, he has 8 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's still got the Bucs on top at 3-3. It's maybe not what he wanted to be, but I tell you what, the last thing, there's a few things on my bucket list I will never do, and betting against Tom Brady is one of them.
Okay, so you think that Mr. Brady can rebound and he's going to get the Bucs in the playoffs, and we're going to see another championship run at a number 12.
We definitely could. And as a matter of fact, I saw something on Facebook tonight that's suggesting that OBJ might be going to Tampa Bay.
You can have him. Please don't let him come back to LA.
Well,
he's going to want more money. 2 ACLs, please. Yeah,
I know.
anybody wants him, take him.
Well, I tell you what, I know who really wants him is Aaron Rodgers. What MTO alluded to, miserable that is up there in Green Bay. But that's they really missed Devontae Adams up there. Let's not kid ourselves. That whole
very clear.
I mean,
Devontae Adams in Vegas probably really misses them because that ain't going well either.
And Christian who? Christian who? Christian Watson who?
You might remember him. He played where Trey Lance did. Okay, we don't even want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I agree. Just some quick comments here. Deshaun Watson, I don't even want to get into it. More allegations. It's messy. I don't want to get into all the crime and how I feel about all that because we've talked about it on the show. But I will say this. This is where somewhere where me and the scout disagree a little bit. There's no way to build a championship team with this circus that's going to surround Deshaun Watson. I think it is going to go down as one of the worst moves in the history of sports because this is just getting ugly with him. And unless he's incredible on a level that we have never even seen out of him, being able to focus through every city he goes to is going to be a mess. It's just not looking good for the Cleveland Browns. Probably needs its own show. So we'll save it for that. But one other thing I want to run by you now at this point is talking a little bit about, I guess we'll call it college football. MTO mentions it here too. I know that you're scouting on first round mock. We've talked about some quarterback drama, but as we close this week and we're not even quite halfway through the college football season, Scout, have you been watching some of these college quarterbacks?
Oh, yeah. I've watched about 18 of them so far, literally.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, matter of fact, I have on my firstroundmock.com, I have a quarterbacks board that's up on my homepage and rates the 18 quarterbacks I've seen so far, based mostly just off the 2021 film. I'm doing things a little bit differently this year. I'm looking at 3 games off 2021 film, and then I'm looking at 3 or more games on 2022 film to try to get a more comprehensive look at these guys, to try to cut down on the errors even more and cut down the margin a little bit more. But yeah, I have looked at these guys, and I do have to disagree with the MTO. I think the Panthers, it's interesting. They've had all these journeyman quarterbacks throughout the years. I think they will do something significant at the quarterback position. They still have Matt Corral there too, who I loved last year. Who got hurt, but I'm not sold on Bryce Young. I'm not sold on him at all.
Interesting.
He looks really jittery in the pocket to me from 2021 film. He just there was this things there that it didn't resonate with me about him at all. But the guy that I do really like, I won't say I love him because love's a strong word, and very few of these guys I love. I mean, there's just a handful of them, right? But the guy who I really, really like, who was really good last year and looks even better this year so far from everything I've seen, is C.J. Stroud from Ohio State.
Okay.
The guy looks like a human jugs machine. I mean, he is just like a machine back there. And he's got a lot of maturity to him, to the point where he's playing like an NFL veteran at the college level. What do I mean? He's looking off safeties. He's doing these little tricks, these little things that a lot of veterans in the NFL only do. So I really like C.J. Stroud. There's a handful of others I really like too. I think you're right. I think the Panthers are going to do something. I don't know if Baker Mayfield's going to hang around there. There's going to be a lot of changes. Obviously, they canned their coaches last week. It's an interesting situation. It's a situation that I would personally have a lot of interest in. And it's kind of funny because over the years, I've done some work in Carolina. I've been on ESPN radio down there. And the Panthers thing, the guy reached out to me on my phone a couple months ago, and he claiming to be a representative of the ownership, saying that they were interested in me for the pro scouting director's job there in Carolina. But it turned out the guy wasn't for real. It was a real weird situation. The guy private messaged. I didn't know who it was, so I went with it. But the Panthers situation would be very interesting. Of course, Carolina has a natural connection and relationship with Washington over the years. as well, as we see Ron Rivera come over there. Carolina wanted to hire Joe Gibbs in the worst way when he stepped away from coaching in 1993. There's a natural connection there between the two organizations. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Interesting. There's just a lot of drama going in. Oh God, don't even get him started. MTO, Colin Kaepernick. It's nice to see that that's been finally put to bed. Like, people aren't continually, every time a quarterback goes down, are they going to bring in Kaepernick, folks? It's been what, 5-6 years? Let's move on. It's over. It's over for Colin. He had a shot. It's done. Hey, that's it this week in the Dirty Pocket. We came at you with some drama, some high-end stories. We're just getting back in the saddle, trying to get the vibe going again after hurricanes and COVID. MTO, fantastic to see you. What an unexpected surprise.
It's awesome to see you. We're going to be switching, in fact, to Tuesday nights. We should make that announcement.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, and so it's interesting that it's awesome to see you, MTO. I mean, we've been on a different night, and there you are. And not only that, but hey, I'm a scout. I don't miss anything, right? I look at tendencies and behavioral patterns, and as a scout, right? Is it just me, or is MTO, is he typing faster? It seems it's like the questions and the comments are coming up even faster on the screen.
Okay. Oh, the scout giving you some love there, MTO.
Yeah, absolutely. I sense an increase in the words per minute.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Does that move up his draft stock?
Absolutely.
Like MTO draft stock.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
I don't blame you, buddy. I'd be feeling good too.
You should be feeling good. I mean,
absolutely.
It's a lot better than it's been. And a couple things about the Jets really quick, MTO, since you're such a loyal, listener and you join us all the time, is that the couple things I sense is the aggression level, mainly the aggression level of the Jets. There was a 4th-and-1 play against Miami. The Jets were up 19-17 in the game. They didn't pick it up, but the fact that they actually went for it shows that they're much more aggressive than they've ever been before with Joe Douglas or Robert Salah. So I think that's a really good situation as far as aggression wins in the NFL, and the Jets are definitely showing themselves to be more aggressive this year. So that's a very good thing and a positive thing for the organization.
Yep, completely agree. Good point. Good point. Well, thanks for joining us, MTO, and thanks for all those who listen in to the Dirty Pocket. We're making them a little shorter, a little faster, a little quicker as the pocket, collapses a little bit. I'm pulling out every cliche I can find here. But thanks for joining me in the Scout. Follow the Scout on firstroundmock.com. MTO, thank you, my friend. And keep cheering on those Jets. It's fun to watch them have some success. Going to be real fun to see them the next few years. But join the Scout there in First Round Mock, myself on gridironicon.com with Preston Denard. Thank you for joining us this week in the Dirty Pocket. Any parting shots, Scout Kelly?
The Philadelphia Eagles are for real.
Oh, man. Okay. My parting shot is the world champion Los Angeles Rams have a lot of work to do on the offensive line. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us this week, MTO. We'll see you next. Everybody be well out there, and we'll see you soon.
Take care. Thanks for watching.